Hi, John. Good afternoon. You've only had about 14 hours to reflect on what happened last night, but I wonder if you've kind of given any more thought to last night's game, and do you come to any more different conclusions, or do you still see it the same way?
Yeah, I had a chance to watch the game back on the plane home. A couple hours flight. We got the stats through. So, I think in on reflection, it becomes a game of moments. And I think again, they took their moments, John, and we didn't. And what's happening in and around the boxes is something we've got to tighten up, just the moments of concentration that leads to their goals, whether it's the set piece, whether it's the third goal, just players switching off. And on the other end, just be more ruthless. When their moments are presented and you've worked for those moments, yeah, you really have to capitalize. So, I mean, even that period where, it felt like they had some control, it was more emotion around the goal, I guess, because when we went back and watched it, again, tactically we were still tight. They weren't really damaging us in areas, but we we started to look more vulnerable in transition. The game was getting a little bit more stretched in that moment, but I thought the shift into the 3-5-2 brought us some good impetus, and yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, it was a game there. I think they could have won and we could have won, and I think statistically could have been a draw. That's where it was probably landing.
We'll go next to James.
Thanks, Nick. Hey, John.
Hey, James.
I was thinking last night when you were filling out that lineup card, it must have been the first time in a while that you had some options and you could play with things a little bit. Maybe just how much is this a new group that you're working with right now?
Yeah, I mean it's a gift and a curse because the gift is you can be a bit more flexible with the approach. As you seen, we set up in a 4-4-2, which allowed us to attack out of a different shape as well, just to give something different, a different look to our opponents, and just to break the monotony of you know that style of play. But at the same time, it gives us the ability to, go back to a back three and change again the emphasis with a more direct front two in the last 20, 30 minutes of the game. So, we came into the game with an in-game change strategy at the 60-minute mark. And again, I think the third goal was the killer for us. I think if we'd kept it within that two margin, I did think we had enough energy in the team, and with people like Marshall Ruddy, who's in good form, Longstaff, Prince Owusu, Corsi Thompson, who's in good form. I thought those players coming in could have give us that little bit of edge to either finish the game defensively or to go and grab something, and they nearly did. So, again, it was a loss. I mean, I can't paint over that. But when you lose in the right way, I think that's again something that I've said to these players. You're not going to win every match in MLS, not yet anyway. But we've got to lose the right way, and I think if we are going to lose, those boys did it the right way last night, and that depth, I think, helps us do that.
We'll go back to John.
Thanks, Nick. John, derby matches against Montreal are always important, but just given the current state of things with, you guys tied with them on points and things being so tight in the Eastern Conference table, and there's, believe I'm correct in saying you only have 9 matches left in the season. I mean, how huge is this game on Saturday?
Yeah, I think even just being Montreal, it's going to be a big game for the lads. But as I've said time and time again, coming into that match, it's an away performance. There's got to be a control, a discipline around that performance. We know that they're in better form than when we met them last time. Their squad depth has increased, so they've been able to gain that rotation. So you know this is going to be a hungry Montreal team that, you know, not only is it points on the line, there's other narratives that draw into this. But for us, we have to just stay focused on our process. We had a bit of a formula against them last time. We learned from that game as well. You know, I haven't watched that back. You know, we had some good moments in that game, but also so did they. They didn't capitalize, and I think with the form Martinez is starting to hit, that's going to help them. So I think coming into this one for the fans and for the city, it's an important game, and we recognize that, and we'll take that on. And for the league and our goals, it's an important game. So throwing that in, we've got enough motivation to turn around in this tight window and go out there and give it our all.
Head back to James.
Thanks again, Nick. John, does the scoreline from that last clash impact this one at all? Does any of that carry over, you think?
I think maybe for them in a motivational sense. I think for us, confidence wise, that, you know, we've been able to capitalize using our quality and our identity. But I think regardless, there's been a lot of water under the bridge, and as I said before, you know, gift or curse when you have players coming back in, you're now rebuilding chemistry. You know, players are integrating back into rhythm and getting used to each other again. So integrating Ozo, Richie back, Shane O'Neill again, still building rhythm. So for us, you know, it's a different team. Like, you know, from what play we played Montreal way back, you know, a few months ago, it's actually a different team now. So there'll be a different lineup, and, you know, players are rebuilding that chemistry again. I thought you've seen that in the game against Miami. You know, the triangles we'd set up on the sides, you could still feel, you know, with guys that hadn't played together consistently, it was a little bit clunky. So, you know, hopefully we're a bit more cohesive against Montreal, and the result from the last game is gone. It's just about an away performance that's got to be disciplined, and we have to bring the fight.
We'll head back to John for the final question here.
Yeah, I'll sneak two in if I can, if you don't mind, Nick. John, first of all, any sort of new injury concerns out of yesterday's game?
No, just fatigue, John. I think the heat in Miami is going to take it out of players. You know, I think the contusion for Nixon Gomez, so he'll be questionable. Davy Flores will be questionable as well. He had a knock on his ankle. But outside of that, it's just fatigue. I mean, we got guys with high minutes now, so yeah. I mean, that's Montreal's gift and curse. They sort of left the CAN champs early and give them that little bit of grace to get some recovery. And for us, we're carrying the guys now with red minutes. But what we do know is we've got a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, because after Saturday, we do get those 7 days to build into our next competition. So, you know, the lads should be able to just leave it all out there, and it'll be sort of mind over matter, real mindset push for the players.
And if I could ask about Kobe Franklin, because he's someone who was, you know, a bright spot for the team last year during a very difficult season, hasn't started or gotten as many opportunities this year. Is that sort of a function of performance, new formation, you having a different assessment of him? I mean, what can you say about that?
No, I think Kobe's he's a real solid squad player for this team. He's had some big moments for us against Orlando, you know, when he came off the bench. And I think, you know, we have the one-on-one connects with Kobe. There's been some big moments in games that if he takes them, you know, those moments, you know, build a CV. You know, they build his status in pushing from being a young player, a young squad player, to being, you know, a starting player week in, week out. You know, he's aware of some of the gaps that he's closing, but there's no player at this club that I've seen commits more to his continual development, the extra hours he puts in on the pitch with the positional coach. And I've said this to him, you know, this is your first season in wing back. It's a position that you're learning, you're evolving in. It requires some of those maverick capabilities where you've got to beat players 1v1. It requires you to score in back post areas. So when those chances come, like the Cincinnati game or the Columbus game, you know, those balls go in the back of the net. You know, those moments change careers and trajectories. So, you know, for him, he's working on that. And that's the beauty with, you know, young Kobe. I can't speak enough about him in terms of his character, his quality, and his commitment to this club. So, you know, this year is a building year. And hopefully in the next 9 games, he's able to take big moments for us and, you know, continue to build into the next season.